Knowledge is power. We all know that, don't we? What's it power to do?
Influence.
Influence, and what's it to do at the end of that? Make money. It's power to control the whole process. The more you know, the more you understand the person, the job, etc. So asking the right questions, we'll go into some of this in detail in a minute. High gain questions are Emma's terminology for this. So could we have a couple of examples of some of your high gain questions, Emma?
They're invariably open. And these are the questions where you're not looking for a formal answer. It's more about how they're answering it. So it could be something as simple as, you're running this company, what would you do with it? I did a big program where I was trying to merge two sales forces, and down at grassroots level it was having quite an impact. We had to assess the talent, find out who was best. Not best, most appropriate for the roles that they were doing. And by actually sitting back and saying to every single one of them, OK, this is a scenario, what would you do to address it? Loved the opportunity to respond. Didn't mean they knew everything, but you can see how they think. You can see what's important to them in the business. So if they say, I'd have more jollies and social days, then you can go, okay, all right, I know that one. If they say, well, I'd merge it and half the workforce has got to go, then that's somebody who's P&L focused.
And it's really important to listen and listen actively. It's not just about, as Emma said, what people say. It's about how they say it, what their expression is as they're saying it. So listen out to central themes. There's a really great recruiter that I so admire, and I wish I could tell you who he is, but I can't. It's confidential. But when he sits in front of somebody, well, when they come for interview, he says, right, so just to clarify, this is what you're here for. So just checking nothing's changed. They're not looking for 50 grand more, for example. And then after doing all the night, like, how was your journey and all of this sort of stuff, he says, right, could you just give me, and also after setting the scene as to what's going to happen, could you just give me a 2-minute overview of your career to date, from when you went to university for that to now, just 2 minutes. And it tells him everything he needs to know about the themes in that person's career. It's amazing. He's taught everyone in his business to do that. Because it really... So, for example, if someone says, well, I went to that university, but it was a wrong subject for me, so I changed and I did this and this, shows assertiveness even then. It shows, you know, they're thinking and not just going with it. And those themes will follow them throughout their career. The other thing is about reading between the lines. So what's not being said? And there's some technique into how to draw that out that I want to share with you that some of my clients, consultants are using. But we talk at 125 words per minute, apparently, according to the research I've done. But our brain works at the speed of light. Now, what does that mean when we're listening to somebody? They're talking at 125 words a minute, but our brain's going 10 to the dozen. So what's the potential risk from us as recruiters? We're distracted, could be. What else? Sorry. We're assuming, and something here?
Finish their sentences.
We're finishing. Yeah. It's like poor old Jonathan Ross. I use him all the time, but he asks 1 or 2 questions in quickly, and then he gives 2 potential answers. So what was that? Was it that? Was it that? Or, you know, and it could be something else. You do that, you're leading them. You're leading them. You need to let them talk. And a really good trick is put your tongue somewhere in your mouth where you can't talk. On the roof of your mouth, at the bottom of your mouth. You try and talk like that, and you can't, so you won't interrupt. Yeah? So, tip. But body language, show of hands. I'm seeing some body language here. Body language, show of hands. Who interviews face-to-face? That's the majority. Why do you interview face-to-face? It's a stupid question, I know. Someone oblige me with an answer, please.
To see the whites of their eyes.
To see the whites of their eyes, quite right.
You don't ever really know somebody unless you've sat down and had a conversation with them. It doesn't matter how good you are listening to somebody. Unless you can actually see them sitting in front of you, you can't ever really know that person.
And a lot of people feel that you don't know someone unless you've met them. And in fact, it does cement relationships. Some sectors cannot do face-to-face interviews because of the way it works. But 55% of the way we communicate is through body language, 38% tone, 7% words. So if you're only using telephone, you're losing 55% of your potential communication ability. You're not seeing these people. You're not seeing the whites of their eyes. I like that one. So somehow you need to overcome that. Some of my clients use Skype, videoing, etc., where it's appropriate. Any comments on any of this? Yes, please.
Can you tell me percentage again about body language to words?
Yeah, 55% body language, 38% tone, 7% words.
There's an additional.
Yeah, do.
We do a lot of telephone interviews
Yeah,
with international candidates.
yeah,
Not Skype, pure telephone interviews. And,
Yeah.
We prep our candidates to and similar numbers. We've got 60 to 40, so they lose that 60%. So we always get them to up their tone and
yes.
extend their answers and making sure that when they do, and we prep them all the way through the whole stage.
So for telephone interviews, you really get them to work on their tone.
Oh yeah, they're standing up, they're walking around, they're pacing.
Yeah.
If it's like they're called in, say, Canada,
Yeah.
if they're up at 6, 7 o'clock, we get them to do like star jumps and things.
Yeah, warm them up.
That's
what we did before this.
Vocals going, because first thing in the morning, you're not ready for a
No.
full conversation. So.
Absolutely. So if you have to use just telephone, make the most of it. Hello.
I was just going to add as well that I think if you interview candidates face-to-face where you can, it gains more commitment from them because they can also see you.
Yes.
How engaged you are with them and interested.
Yes. You can't hide it unless you're a really good actor. But people know if you're genuine and they can hear it. So that's a really good point. They get buying to you as well.
Yes.
That starts the control. It's building the trust and the empathy. It's face-to-face, and if you can't do it face-to-face, find a way of doing it. Find some other alternative. Really hone your 38% and your 7% upwards. Now, how to get this across in a candidate interview. Before the interview, prep them. So we're going to talk through these tips. We might not spend too much time on each thing, but we can go through it in detail at the bar with a glass of wine later if you need more detail. But if they understand what's coming up, they're more likely to be relaxed, aren't they? So why do you think it is that the majority of recruitment companies send out a basic form and say, fill that in and bring it in, and bring all this other stuff, eligibility to work in the UK, all of that, bring all that. I mean, what's in it for that candidate? Does anyone do anything better than that? I hope you do. No? Yeah, you've got to. Don't you? If the top billers will say, what I'm going to need from you is an hour or so. And what we're going to do is this and this and this. I will want you to bring some of this. What's it called? The legal stuff, the compliance stuff. Yes, I will want you to bring the compliance things, but that's just a legality. I really need to get to know you. So what I'd like you to do, I know I've got your CV, but I'm going to ask you to talk through it. And if you could bring maybe some prepped notes for yourself of what your top abilities, your skills, etc., and some examples, that will really help. And then by the end of it, I'm going to know this, you're going to get this, and then we'll take it from there.
So setting the scene.
Set the scene before they see you, before they meet you, even if it's on the phone. You do that?
We've got a candidate interview that we go through on face-to-face with them.
Yep.
If you tell them sort of beforehand,
Prep them before.
let them know that the interview that we're going to have them isn't a formal interview. They don't need to be suited and booted, as it were.
But you're telling them what to expect.
Yeah.
Now, most recruiters don't do that because they presume the candidates know, and they don't know. So if you are doing it, you're doing something really, really different.
Very similar. I'll brief you the first on the phone, then if they qualify to come in and sit meet me, that's fine. But I'll give them an incentive to come in as well. Say, come and meet with me at this time.
Yep.
Depending on how things go, I have got opportunities, A, B, C clients, and
Yep.
so on.
Yep.
Discuss that whilst you're here. So it gives them an incentive to come in. It shows if they do come in, the commitment from their end as well to actually come in and meet me. Whereas if they don't, I wouldn't be able to put them for it at my school either.
So you measure their commitment as to whether they will put themselves out to come in and meet you. I used to do exactly the same in my business. The problem is, if they all think we're shysters, they might be judging us all in the same way. So you saying, this is what I'll do for you, and giving them a taste of that up front, without maybe over-egging it, it will give them an incentive to come. Yeah. Yeah, great. Any other? Hello.
Sorry, I tend to get mine to have a bit of a think about who they'd like to work for as well.
Yeah.
Come with a ready-made client list, and if I can gauge, get a feeling for where they're going.
Yes.
By the phone call conversation that we're having, then at least I can do a little bit of prep.
Yes.
Have some names, or not to sound ridiculously corny, but just almost going back to that confidence thing to get them to know that actually you do know your market.
That's great. So you're asking them to do things that will show you're in a good light, which is the main thing that differentiates you. The clear aims for the interview, when I ask most recruiters, not you guys obviously, what the aim for the interview is, they say it's to get to know the candidate and place them. Well, actually, here's what the best consultants, the most successful consultants are doing. You've got the notes. So it is to understand them, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail, is start to build the relationship from there. And it's also to start to control the recruitment process, including the start of counter-offer management, which we'll go through shortly. And it's also some business development. So you need to get some leads, and you need to get some referrals, but not overtly, and it needs to be done appropriately for your business in your world. So there's 4 key points. Is there anything else I've missed from? No? Okay. So setting the scene. So this is how we're going to work. I'm going to want to, the way I do it is, thanks for your CV. What I'd really like to do now is get to know you really well. And I'm going to ask you a number of questions about the work you've done, and then I'm going to get onto some personal stuff. Not too personal, mind, but, things about you to help you not only get the right role, but to get into the right environment, the right culture, etc. Yeah? So setting the scene. So they don't get offended, because they've spent 2 hours or so doing their CVs and you're just going to ignore it. Well, I do anyway, because I need them to bring it to life. Most people, they don't lie on their CVs, do they? Maybe they do. But sometimes they've taken the content of their job description and put it on their CV, whether they do this stuff or not. That's in my experience anyway. So the in-depth probing questions will come on to. Counter-offer management will also come on to shortly, but also managing expectations post-interview. So this is what happens next. This is how often I'll be in touch with you. I won't be in touch with you if whatever. Just tell them what to expect. Tell them what to expect when, you get them an interview. So this is what we do when you get an interview. This is how we prepare you if you'd like the help. This is how we feed back. Because if this is what makes people understand you're different. Because even if they don't get to interview stage with you, you've done the PR on your service. You've told them how you work. And they ain't got it for anyone else, even if they get placed by somebody else. Just see how that would work, maybe. Emma, anything on that?
No, other than say one of the biggest accounts I ever had, I won through a rejected candidate. Didn't even shortlist him. But he liked, firstly, the fact that I was representing the company I was representing, but secondly, the way the whole business, it wasn't just me, but anybody through admin, the whole process. And it was the biggest account I'd had.
Fabulous. Anyone else got any examples of really wowing candidates and getting a lead for business from that? Yeah.
Interview candidates that haven't been successful, but the service we provided with them and the way we treated them made them feel professional, and called them, we said we would, and emailed them, we said we were going to, and they went on to become decision makers and have asked us for business, or they've met a decision maker who has come back to us even though another agency might have placed them there. So it's happened a couple of times.
This is why you can build business in a recession. You don't have to do much to outplay your competitors. All you're doing there is being polite. You're calling people when you said you will. You're doing what you promised. That's all it takes in some cases. So well done for that. And post-registration, please, 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 put all the information about your candidates on your system, so in your absence, someone else could place that person. I'll come to you shortly. That is the test of a good consultant. So I could go sit on someone's desk, I can see a job, I understand the job because great notes are on that, I understand what the client's looking for and the culture, etc. I can look at a candidate and know enough to have an intelligent conversation with that candidate about this job from the notes. Hand on heart, who does that? Well done you. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, who's got colleagues who don't do that? Who's got an action point to take back to their businesses, maybe, about that? Because that could be losing your companies a bit of money there. Just that alone. And question, sorry, you had a question.
With the manager expectation post-interview, you're talking about what to expect from us.
Yeah.
But would that not be another time to also talk about what you expect from your candidate?
Absolutely right. Thank you for that. You do need to tell them how you expect them to work with you. So how do you do this in your business?
I do normally ask them, I talk about what I would do, what they would expect from me.
Yeah.
But I'll also say, in a way to say, in exchange for that, I would want this from you. So in terms of, this is part of the lead and business development aspect, I would say to them, look, if you are unavailable at this time, because I do it on temps desk.
Yeah.
So I need to know if they're going to be available for me when I call upon them. And I do ask them to just drop me a quick email. Just say to me, look, Richie, I'm going to be at this place for the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
Project.
Yes.
I'll be available after that, and that way I've got my leave.
Yeah.
Tell me who they're working for, and I know that I'm available, and that way they keep in communication with me, so it's not always me to them.
So it's both-way communication. You tell each other what you expect from each other. Now that is part of the relationship building, isn't it? So I'll do this, you do that. It's going to the partnership. You're helping each other to help them, really. Really important. Things like, if I call you, I need to talk to you because I've got a job for you. If I get you an interview, I will need you to spend at least half an hour with me going through and prepping, because actually, if I do that, 40% more chance you've got of getting that job. Proven. Prepared candidates have a 40% higher chance of getting a job than their competition for the same job at interview stage. So tell them statistics like that. It impresses people. And referencing. Who references? Oh, that's quite a few of you. That's more than half, isn't it? Why do you reference? Silly question, because I'm really sold on referencing. I think it's an amazing tool. Why do you reference? What? Right. Check they are who they say they are, their credibility, and as a lead to talk to somebody, a decision maker. Fab. Got anything from that table, referencing? None of you do referencing over there. Fair enough. Do any referencing on this table?
Yeah, for me it's
exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah, you could get more. Oh, yes. Yes, and it shows you take more care and attention. So even if you're just building your brand by doing this. Guys, got anything more?
It shows that you're different from another agency, perhaps.
Yes.
The main thing we do it for, we tell them we're referencing all the candidates, so any future candidates will be referenced as well.
Great. So you're basically showing that you take more care and attention, and it sets you aside or apart from everyone else. Yeah, it does. Anything more from this table? So it's an illegal necessity as well.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Any more?
Also for confidence, tying into what gentleman was saying, confidence in selling your candidate across to clients.
Yes.
But also client confidence in you knowing that people at these end requires have been pretty vetted and checked.
So it builds confidence. I had a situation once where somebody told me she couldn't work past 5:15. Who has clients who don't work past 5:15? Phoned up for a verbal reference, and you still can get verbal references, guys. It's really good. If you talk to line managers, they don't know they shouldn't talk to you, so don't go to HR if you can help it. This guy, who had been her line manager, said, I bet she told you she can't work past 5:15, didn't she? Yes, she did. I'm a bit worried about that. And he said, she's the best worker I've ever had. It's only once a month she can't work past 5:15, but she tells everyone it's every night, just in case. Oh, right, okay. Anyway, it helped us place her. And he said she was the best worker ever, and that gave us confidence to place her. Can you top any of that? Table 1, for referencing.
Because we work in social work, we have to, even the first phone call, if somebody calls me up wanting to know about a job, I go through the needs, what they're looking for, etc. But the last thing I always ask them is that I need references to cover 5 years for compliance reasons. But can I speak to your manager, or can I speak to your last manager?
Yeah.
And it doesn't just give you a tool to speak to a new client or a new contact or check whether they're credible, but the response immediately says to you whether they're serious about working with you immediately. Because you get people who just turn around and say, they're not there anymore, they died.
So the response from the candidate, if they don't want you to, it tells you they're wasting your time. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. If they won't bother coming to meet you, it tells you they're wasting your time. There's all these clues. There's all these clues there as it goes along, as the process goes along. You don't want time wasters, especially professional ones who are trying to get a pay rise where they are, maybe, or just seeing what's on the market. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. Right, getting under their skin. Now, for each role, tell me about that organisation. Tell me about the type of culture it has. Talk to me about the team. And then tell me about what you were paid and the whole remuneration package. And now tell me about your job. Now, the consultants who get the best and understand these candidates understand that the setting in which they do the job, they perform the job, is as important as how they actually did the job. So they ask about the company, the culture, etc. And not only that, they're finding about potential clients too. Now, talk me through your role. I've got your wonderful CV here that you spent all this time on. Talk me through what you did and how you did it. What was a typical day like? Don't accept top-line answers either. So tell me how you did that. Can you give me an example of a time when you had difficulty with that? Probe. And that's why you can't do this in less than an hour, really. So don't do it if it's not relevant to your 15-minute thing. You have to choose what you say. Yeah, I'll move on. So I'm getting a picture of that role. Now, the thing is, somebody who says they manage a team of 7 could just be a team leader. They could just be dishing out work. So what specifically did you do in that role? Oh, I just allocated the work every day. And if there was a problem, I asked someone else to help. So you need to find out, did they do recruitment? Did they do disciplinary? Did they do this? Did they do that? And really probe, because it shows you know your stuff. And they might not be lying. It might be to them, that's what management is. You just need to know you're comparing like for like. You understand what they're talking about. And what did you like about that role? What didn't you like about that role? And what did you achieve? What does that tell you, Emma? Those types of questions.
That's where you're getting into your Maslow. You can identify where their motivation is sitting, what works for them, what doesn't anymore. Really important.
Now, the reasons for leaving, I have seen the really, really decent consultants find out what the real reason is. Don't make them cry like Emma does.
Actually,
obviously.
I make candidates quite a lot. I mean, in a good way, in a sharing, not... Yeah.
So the real reasons for leaving, and I call it reasons 1, 2 and 3. So tell me why you left that role. Oh, it was the end of the contract. And why else? Oh, well, it was a bit bureaucratic and I wouldn't be there longer than a couple of years anyway. All right. And why else? And it's just like that. Just a conversation. And why else? So it's the most natural thing in the world. There's more than one reason. And you start digging. Oh, well, there was a bit of bullying going on there. And I couldn't change it. So I'm leaving it. Because the more you probe, the more they think you understand and you trust. And this really works. And in fact, this works for new consultants. If you do the and why else rule, it really does work. Anyone not agree with that? like a challenge. No? Any comments? Does anyone use it? You do? Yeah. What have you found out?
This is the and why else, yeah.
And why else?
Just in case I missed it while I was writing it down. I used it actually last week with, it was actually an ex-recruitment consultant who came and see me.
Wow.
And I wanted to say, well, why are you leaving? Oh, because, I don't want sales anymore. Yeah, but why else?
Mm-hmm.
Because actually they were like this. And why? And it went on and it turned out that, there was all sorts of things going on.
Yeah.
X, Y, Z. But, and actually the company was helping. But yeah, it definitely works because you get to, it was very much I don't like sales. But that wasn't the reason at all. And by just asking more and more and more.
So it worked for you?
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to ask you then, how does that candidate feel? Why do you say it was sales? Why do you say it was the end of a contract? Why do you say, well, it was time for a change and all that rubbish? Why do you say that as a candidate?
Because you don't want to admit what else there is going on.
You maybe don't want to admit it.
Sometimes you don't realise how important it can be, because that's what every recruiter's are asking you. So if you answer that just standard questions, you think you just pass on and go to the more important things. But sometimes this is more important than the actual all the questions, basically.
So sometimes they don't know how important this is. And why else?
They don't. I think it's different. I think it's the trust that they have with you. Somebody that you've just met and spoken to for an hour is not going to sit there and tell you, the deepest, darkest secrets of why they, what the situation may be. So for you to probe, it may get their back up. So you've got to do it in an empathetic way.
So step by step.
Yeah, it may take 2 or 3 interviews for you to actually genuinely understand why it is that they're leaving.
Yes, it does build trust, and it might be. I mean, I get most people telling me in an hour why the real reasons they're leaving. Sometimes it's because they're embarrassed. It's not the dumb thing to say there's bullying going on in my company, is it? Because it could make you look like the bully, the person saying this is a reason. So you need to make it safe for them. So it's and why else? It's a trick. It really works. It's not a trick. It's a technique. It's a technique.
I think a lot of people will say what they want you to hear.
Yes.
If they really want a job and you've advertised that, they come in to see you about a specific job. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear in response.
Yes.
So I find that with a lot of, certainly some of the roles and responsibilities, that actually a lot of candidates leave off an awful lot of their CV.
Yes, they do.
Actually, it's really important because they think, oh,
They've got to
that's
have on
not
3
what they
pages,
want.
or they've got to stick on 2 pages.
That's it. And you end up finding so much more, and actually they're perfect for a role that you might have even discounted them for, thinking they haven't got something.
Absolutely.
By
By interviewing them properly, you will make them more placeable. You will gain their trust. You will get them on side with you. You really will.
What do you do if the accused bully is writing the reference and you know that there's going to be an issue and that's the reference that's then going to be...
I'll let you answer that.
I'll tell the client.
Tell the client.
Tell the client.
You've had that, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I've had actually a number of interesting situations, ranging from, incidentally, a candidate who turned out to be 7 years younger than he told us he was, and on the run from the police in Bristol. They found that out 6 months after he'd started. I mean, he literally had pulled it off. This entire CV was fictitious. Another woman who was a professional industrial tribunal.
Oh, yeah.
She used to go for company cultures that were male-dominated, really aggressive. She'd been there for about 6 months. She'd stage a relationship, ideally with a line manager, and before you knew it, they had a tribunal. Her references turned out to be a lock-up in Swindon. That's still on the flip side. But with yeah. The referencing thing where it really does work, and it's consulting back to your client. Because if you are representing your candidate, you've got faith in them, you know what the situation is, you can coach your client through any negative stuff that might come out, because it happens, it does happen.
Yeah.
But equally, you can inform them about there are things about candidates that they won't share because for whatever reason they think it's a perceived weakness. I had a candidate who had a wife who had very severe back trouble. And it turned out the reason he was turning us down, and I know I'm leaping ahead a little bit here, was that the package didn't include his wife's medical insurance to be ported across. As soon as we found that out, it was a question going back to the organisation in question saying, I got it wrong, actually. The only thing that matters to him is that his wife's medical insurance gets taken through. Can we do that? They said, of course we can. He moved.
That was it.
Yeah, he started. clients specifically, and I'm almost quoting, said, you know your candidates really well. We need to keep working together.
Oh, I like that. Yes, hello.
I've had situations in the past where I've put candidates forward for jobs, and I've had one decent reference, and the second one that comes back isn't the right one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really poor reference. So what I've said to the client, is I've told them the absolute truth. I'm not prepared to put this candidate in front of you.
Yep.
It's going to waste your time. It's going to waste my time.
Yep.
So what they said to me was, brilliant. We know exactly what that next time you do put a candidate in front of me, it's going to be the right candidate. So I didn't have to send a CV. I just started up the phone, got the right one for you now, and they trusted me because I was honest with them the first time round. So when I put that candidate, they went in there and took them straight away.
So doing all this properly gives you the tools to be honest with your clients and vice versa. Absolutely. So yeah, brilliant. Getting under the candidate's skin on the personal side, what motivates you? Tell me about your personality. How would you be described in a working environment? What do people say about you? That was 3 different questions in one breath. Ideal culture fit, as Emma said earlier, what kind of environment would be ideal for you? What would you word that in any other way?
I always say, give me 5 words that describe your best culture, and then see if they try and construct a sentence out of those 5 words. That's just entertaining. But actually what you need are the 5 words.
What are your strengths? What are your limitations? Get evidence for that. Someone says, actually, personality, oh yeah, I'm really fun. Give me an example of what you mean by fun, because actually fun to some people isn't fun to me, Same with strengths. I'm really good with people. Give me an example of when you've been really good with some people. What happened? Get evidence. Don't trust these people that they're talking the same language as you, that you need to be on the same wavelength. And actually some people lie. They tell you what they think you want to hear, and then they can't back it. So get evidence. Limitations, that's a nice word for weaknesses. If you were to move to another role, where would you need some additional training or development? And if they won't tell you this, because they've got to be honest with you, listen, I'm on your side. For example, if I were being asked this, finance. I've got a qualification in finance. I know how to read P&Ls. I know all this stuff. Hate it with a vengeance. If I had to do that every day, I'd stick pins in my eyes instead. I'd rather not do it. There's my weakness. This is how I manage it. So what's your weakness? What's your limitation? Be honest with me. I'm here to help you. So it's a partnership type thing. What do you want to do in your next job? Not what job do you want. What would you miss if it wasn't included in your next role? Because there could be jobs that this candidate misses out simply because it's not labelled like they think it should be. So what would you miss? What type of boss, what type of management do you need? An ideal type of employer you've got here. What kind of companies do you want to work for? Like someone, was that you who says, bring your ideal companies, bring a list with you. Any comments or questions on this? Yes, hello.
I think going back to the personal things, I think that's really important, because going back to building rapport with candidates as well. For myself, I'm in education, so we've got 360 other agencies in London alone we're competing.
Yep.
So it's about what, not only to clients, but to candidates, what's going to differentiate me? Why are they going to call me instead of the other agency they're registered with?
Yep.
So finding out things on a personal level, like, they enjoy going bowling, tennis, and then you can talk about when you call them on the Mondays. Did you go bowling on the weekend? I had actually thought about you, and the candidate will automatically think, he actually has gone an extra mile to think about me.
It's building rapport, isn't it?
Even if you're lying.
Don't lie. I was thinking very highly of you then. No, you're absolutely right. And I bet you recalled the fact they go bowling. Yeah, but they think you've got a great memory, don't they? Which, of course, you do.